Good afternoon. I've tried to make this YouTube video 3 times and there was some error, so I restarted it and hopefully it'll work correctly this time. For this Friday, June 28th, you have to evaluate the best and worst written instructions you received or you can recall as far as that goes. The guidelines are the fourth item under best and worst instructions due Friday, June 28th. If you click on that, and open it, the required points of criteria are that you use the format, visual used, and level of detail. Okay? And if you have that red sample assignment booklet, look in there because there are effective, descriptive assignments. But let's just go and look at 2 of these so I can explain to you specifically with examples what I am looking for here. So, you don't have to redo this and I don't have to comment on something that I'm not looking for. I want you to understand specifically what I'm looking for. So what you can do is you can just use the title effective or ineffective written instructions, or like this student did, Doug, let's build something together. And so anyhow, he looked at Mousetrap by Milton Bradley, and then on the other hand, he looked at for Phoenix building sets, specifically those for a system that he found confusing and so on. But he used format, visuals, and level of detail. And so you can see with format, he is very specific. The steps are numbered. There are 24 steps. Words such as stop sign and diving board provide a succinct overview of what the step will involve. Each step is followed by a short one-sentence statement, and then he gives a comment. Overall, Mousetrap's comments are very well laid out, and provide a clear series of steps that must take place. But you notice he uses 24 steps. He uses 1 or 2 word summary. For visuals, the same thing there again. Each step only depicts the relevant piece of the step. Additionally, arrows are included in the images and so on. When you refer to your visuals, mention if they're black and white pictures, if they're color, if they're clip art, how big they are approximately, how many there are, and then level of detail. But you notice, for example, as described in the last section, the images are extremely detailed. Each curve and contour of each piece are shown. This makes the instructions clear. The level of detail is impressive. They include a short action statement to describe what to do in the steps, such as press, snap, slide, balance, and so on. So you notice how specific he is. And for your information, in Chapter 8 of our textbook, there's about an 8-page overview of written instructions. You may want to look at that to see what good written instructions do. So, I would tell you that. Now, the other point that he does, these Kinex Big Ball Factory, so difficult an engineer probably couldn't do it. And so he has format. It has 20 detailed steps, including no written text whatsoever. The only written words, and he gives an example there. The visuals used, they're extremely large. Over each step requires assembly of hundreds of small pieces. And so level of detail, the lack of written detail makes instructions extremely confusing. And then you see he has a conclusion. But what I want you to do is be accurate. Don't say there were short sentences or big visuals or a lot of information or long paragraphs. Articulate what you mean and be as specific as possible. If the instructions are available online, particularly there with a Word document, you can look and see the coding or the size approximately, and it's easier to look at it if they're a PDF, if they're a Word document. If they're in print, you can still get a general idea. So that was, Doug's example. And then I also wanted to look at best and worst, the one by Marissa, which is next as well, just for you. So effective communication are not blown away by Harbor Breeze ceiling fan. And again, she focuses on the points of criteria. And then there is a table of contents. The instructions are written black and white only with no different styles. The headings are underlined. And she mentions the visuals. We look through the pictures to find the step-by-step piece. The piece was never placed individual for this fan until the final picture. The level of detail. So she goes through the level of detail. And then she goes through the format for the other ones. And so she gives some different comments and so on. And it's for this, actually, for this particular class. But anyhow, she looks at different examples and different levels of detail. So try to be as accurate and as specific as possible. It really does make a difference, no matter what it is. Somebody in this class put a K&N air filter in their Honda Civic Si, and a K&N air filter is one that it's like cotton or some sort of fabric, but it gives the vehicle more horsepower. The filter doesn't need to be replaced, it just can simply be washed out, and it gives more air through the engine, through the intake, and so the vehicle performs better. But the instructions for it were absolutely exceptional. There were 10 steps, and then each one of them started off with an action verb: grasp, adjust, position, maneuver, and then they used tips and steps and suggestions and notes, but each sentence was only like 10 words. But there was a visual under each of the steps, and then the level of detail was really accurate as far as how far to tighten the screws so you didn't over tighten and crack the plastic housing and that sort of thing. So it's really, really important for you to articulate. And so, like I said, whatever you do, look at some of these examples in assignments, and then also look in the red sample assignment booklet. That's why I sent it to you, for you to look and for you to understand what I am looking for. Because, as I said, I just read this assignment for the English 162 WA and WB class. The information was good, but some of them were rather general, and some of them could have been more specific and more elaborated. Now, the second assignment that is due for this Friday, the 28th, is you have to do the proposal for your consumer report. And first of all, don't say that I'm going to be looking at 3 brands of digital cameras that cost less than $300. There are hundreds of brands or hundreds of models of the different brands. Like, look at Canon or Nikon or Olympus or Minolta and so on. And for those of you that take pictures, I mean, you can have the compact camera that you can put in the small purse or your pocket or in a fanny pack or whatever, you know, and then you can have a little bit more of an advanced one, you know, that has more of a mega zoom type of feature, sort of a full-size camera, and then you can have the DSLR, and so it can be pretty varied. But just to give you an example, this last week, I wanted to give my sister my wife's GPS, and it was only a few years old for her because my sister does not have one. So I bought a new GPS. And so I bought a Garmin Nuvi, and the one that I bought was $199, but it included lifetime maps and traffic. And it's really, really neat because it also shows like different icons for banks or for food. And even like last night, we were down in North Huntington, and it showed like a gecko. It showed it on the map where it was, and it even had the little gecko icon. So, but it was, like I said, in that price point. And so TomTom had one in that same price point with many of the same features, as did Magellan. They were very competitive. And then same thing too, if you're looking at a laptop, all these brands now have these Ultrabooks, okay, which are these 3-pound laptops that are made to compete with tablets. And so, you know, they boot up in a minute. They typically have, you know, 6 or 8 megabytes of RAM. But the ones that are like $8.99, $9.99, very, very similar as far as hardware and so on, but they will have some differentiation as well. So that's the point of the consumer report. But the biggest thing that I wanted to tell you is when you do the proposal, tell me first of all the three brands, and then second of all the models of those brands you're looking at. And if you know the specific model number, that would be even better. Let me give you a good example, because if you were looking, for example, at the Honda Civic LX sedan, the Honda or the Toyota Corolla, either you could do the CE or the LE, or which is sort of in that same niche, and then the sedan, the four-door sedan, and then if you were also looking at the Mazda 3 four-door sedan, and I think that would be the touring model, but they're all in that same price range, like $18,995. And so that's what you would have to say, like I'm looking at these three, because even you can go these small sedans these days. I mean, you can get ones that cost $25,000, and they'll have navigation, fog lights, 6-player CD changer, sunroof, heated seats, all those types of features. So some buyers will buy those types. So mention the brands and the models. Now, when you get into the information on the points of criteria, don't just list them. You have to explain them. So bullet them and explain them. So like, for instance, if you were doing a laptop and you wanted to look at the ease of use or the durability or the warranty, or like what's called ergonomics, as far as how easy and how functional the laptop is, whatever it is, tell me what you are looking for. Explain it. Just don't list it. And then finally, with your sources, don't say I'm going to look online, or I'm going to look around a little bit. Be more specific. So if you were looking at a laptop, you would look at Staples, at Best Buy. You would go maybe to Sam's Club, to Target, to Office Max. And then, of course, on the internet, you could go to Amazon, which gives ratings of them. Best Buy does as well. They do a very good job. And, of course, you can go to eopinions.com. You can go to CNET, which is a great source, Consumer Reports, and, of course, through EBSCOhost at the WCCC website. That's helpful. If you want to look in Google, it'll give you good information. But that's what you should do. And even when you finally get to the Consumer Report itself, you may even want to go to stores, to visit them in person. If you're going to buy a camera, go to Ritz Camera. Or, if you're going to be buying an appliance of some sort, go to one of these privately owned appliance stores like Cabin Hill Maytag. Of course, you can go to Lowe's and Home Depot. But if you go to a place where people are real pros and they sell the same product all day, every day, they will be very, very helpful to you. This last winter, our KitchenAid dishwasher went out, and it was only 4 or 5 years old. I thought, boy, that's not so good. And we went to Lowe's, and we deal with this same sales rep who's really, really good. And I said, we were thinking about buying Bosch. He said, don't buy Bosch. He said, they're a European brand. She said, they're too small for American kitchens. If you have a big Thanksgiving dinner, it's too small. And she said also, parts take longer to get with Bosch, and there's only a limited number of people who repair them. She said, buy KitchenAid, or Whirlpool is the brand that we went with, because we didn't want to buy another KitchenAid. And she gave several other suggestions, but that was really helpful. And the same thing, we bought a Whirlpool Duet front-loading washer and dryer, and the man that repairs our appliances, he suggested that brand. He just really, really likes them, as he does Kenmore and some others. So tell me a little bit of information about where you would be doing your research, okay? And then for next week, for Friday, July 5th, you have to do a summary of sources for your consumer report. And there are examples in that red booklet. But specifically also, you can see summary of sources, assignment, where it says that, summary of sources, summer 2003. And there are some examples. I'll click on the first one that says summary of sources, fall 2013. And you notice Michael J. Kropp. And notice how he did a memorandum. So date, to, from, and subject. And if you want to, you can go Mr. Hricik, Technical Communication, Professor, Instructor, Michael J. Krupp, networking major or whatever. And then he actually could have included the date for these websites, but see how he gives very specific information on the brands and what they had to say and so on. And then at the very end, asked me for feedback within a week or so. But anyhow, he has 6 sources. You basically need to use 4 total for your summary of sources. Naturally, if you want to use more, you can. And let's look at one more, Jillian Kozer, and you can see how I commented on hers. So she gives me, my name and title, the date, her name, and so on. And then for the subject, you can even bold and capitalize that. But you see how specific she is on her sources. And the last item that I need to mention to you that is coming due for next week is you have to do one more discussion board. You have to do a discussion board posting, and you have to do the first posting by Wednesday, July 3rd in 2 paragraphs, and the other one by Friday, July 5th in a paragraph. You have to respond to another student. With your discussion board postings, write them in Word, edit them, and spell check them, and then copy and paste them in. Don't just type them in the discussion board, because sometimes you tend to have some errors that you don't miss or you don't see. So anyhow, that's it. Thanks.